In this tutorial we're going to cover the basic functionality of the software that comes with the Robokit interface. The software itself is very graphical based. It's a fairly typical GEM application. When you start it up, it immediately invites you to load what it calls an RSU file, which is essentially a setup file. When you first install the Robokit software, you won't have any setup files. Once you start creating your own, then you can save them and you can recall them. To make a setup file, there's a number of steps you need to take. The first thing you need to do is you need to add a background image. For some reason it doesn't allow you to do anything unless you've created a background image. So we'll add an image. Images are DRP files. You can take a Neochrome or a Digus file and run them through a converter called MakeDrop, and that will create a DRP file based on the input. There's some that come with the Robokit already. They're largely based on the projects that are in the Robokit user manual. So let's take the mini-arm drop file, as that's the first one, and that's the one that's described in the manual. So that will load in an image, and once we have the image we can then add buttons to it. It's worth noting that there's a clock which, when you first run the program, is not running. You need to switch this on first. You can do that by double clicking on the watch icon on the right hand side. Once you've enabled the watch icon, then commands can be sent to the controller. You can send commands just by creating a message. So I won't go into everything here at the moment, but for example, if we want to create a message for a motor, then we need to go through a couple of steps before the motor will work. Okay, but you can, if you want to, you can just set a let's set an output, for example. So if I want to set a particular line, then I can just type in the line number in here. So line number 7 is my light, and we should see the light has come on there. And if I want to unset a line or reset a line, then I can line 7, accept, and the light goes out. So if I now want to create some sort of autonomy within the program, I need to go through a few steps. The first thing you need to do is, for every motor, you need to initialize them. So you need to tell Robokit where the motors are. So let's go to motors, initialize motor, and then we say we give the motor an identity. So we'll call the first one motor 0, and then you have to tell it which output that is on, and that's the first output line that you plug it into. As discussed in the previous video, you need to connect a motor to 2 of the output lines. So we need to tell the Robokit software the first of the 2 output lines that we've connected the motor to. So in this case, output line 2 is the first. Click accept, and now I've initialized the motor. I can now, if I want to, I can move a motor for a certain amount of time. So let's say I want to move motor 0. Speed will be 4, and then I can tell it which direction I want to move it in. So that's either -1 or 1, and then I can tell it how much time I want to move it for, and these are in milliseconds. So click accept, and that's moved for 2 seconds. If I want to move the motor again for a certain amount of time, I can type in motor 0, full speed, and then again 20. As you can see, the using the time isn't really an accurate way of getting of being able to control a robot. because the time largely, well, there's too many factors. Really what you want to do is bind the motor to an encoder, and you want to detect a number of pulses that that encoder receives to then determine what position that motor is in. But for the time being, we'll use the motor time just to give you a feel for how this works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create some buttons in the application for different commands. So let's add an icon, and we'll add this one, and we'll say we want to move that motor. We'll just switch the motor on with this command, and that was -1 to move it in that direction, and then we can position that button where we want it to be. Let's create another button, and we'll move motor 0 again, and we'll set the speed to maximum and direction to 1. Okay, so that will move the motor in the opposite direction. Let's put that button over here. Now we probably need a way to stop the motor, so let's create a stop command. Motor stop, motor 0. Okay, so now I should be able to control that motor with these buttons. So if I click this one, the motor moves, and then when I click the hand icon, it stops, and then when I click this button, it moves back. So there you go, there's a basic introduction to the Robokit software.